Moving on now to deserving poor news. Australia has many myths in its long and storied history. There's the rainbow serpent, Tiddlywink the frog, the story about how the birds got their colours, and favourite of your drunkest uncle is the myth of the dole bludger and the undeserving poor. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to any of us that pay attention to the poor that the government wants to create powers to strip fugitives of welfare payments. Good, I hear you cry, screaming at the screen from the future. They are criminals. Why should the taxpayer support them? But you, I respond, hear from in the past, you don't hesitate to support cops receiving pay while they're being investigated, do you? Suddenly I smell hypocrisy. Maybe it is that you need more details in order to understand why you're wrong on this one. More specifically, this would apply to fugitives wanted for some of the most serious crimes and sexual offences. And good again, I hear you cry again from the future, interrupting me one more time. But you're only forcing me to do the same bit back at you. And again, cops are notorious for these kinds of crimes. In fact, in 2024, data released by the Force showed that sexual assault, intentionally causing injury, recklessly causing injury, and unlawful assault were the most common charges in cases involving police. So don't make me do this bit again. These powers come from an amendment to a Social Security bill, which was tabled in the lower house, which sought to establish a compensation scheme for people affected by unlawful income appropriation, where entitlements were miscalculated from averaging incomes. Think about it as robo-debt, but if it was people instead of robots who did the fucking up. So, you know, just like a slower robo-debt, really. The bill includes some positive reforms to debt waivers, which, to be honest, are long overdue measures, such as offering up to $600 in compensation to around 3 million people affected by the unlawful Centrelink debt recovery scheme. Which is great, guys. It's great. For once, people on welfare are having something good happen to them instead of having something bad imposed on them. However, this last-minute amendment was introduced by the government after the inquiries into the legislation had concluded, and so did not receive proper scrutiny by Parliament. And guys, that's bad. That's real bad. They're trying to get us to eat a big old turd by covering it in ice cream and calling it dessert. Why can't people have nice things, the poor people? Why can't they just have nice things for once? For once! The problem, according to critics, is that it denies natural justice and could unintentionally affect innocent people. I don't know guys, like, innocent people being cut off from the very support payments that they deserve does sound like business as usual for Centrelink to me. But that's just me. So, now the bill intended to deliver compensation to people slapped with unlawful welfare debts would also grant the government power to stop welfare payments for people subject to outstanding arrest warrants for serious offences, allowing the government to cancel someone's payment based on advice from a senior person in the police without a conviction. And if there is someone that we can trust to be respectful of the poor and the downtrodden, it's definitely famously tolerant, respectful and supportive of other people who aren't them, the police. I can't think of a single incident of police abusing their power on, say, the homeless, for example. As we have already established, they are busy recklessly causing injury and unlawful assault in other places. Call me old-fashioned, but I subscribe to a couple of outdated and radical takes, including police should not have any involvement in determining someone's social security entitlement. That feels like a big one, especially as this amendment would allow this overreach to occur even in the absence of proper judicial processes. Small compensation payments to people wronged by Centrelink is the delicious cheese that they're dangling in front of us to distract us long enough that we don't see the steel trap snapping down around us. BAM! And I don't like that. Instead of helping the poor, the government has quietly embedded a new punishment, like a Kinder Surprise where all the toys are rusty knives and poison. This was done without debate or scrutiny, pitching the idea of cutting off someone's Centrelink payment simply because a warrant exists for their arrest, with no conviction, no day in court, no presumption of innocence. An allegation suddenly becomes grounds for destitution. That's a real weird choice, just immediately turning to stripping them of the things that make them human: shelter, security, and family support. This is the kind of thing that sounds good to centrist cowards who get off on the idea of punishing the wicked with no eye to nuance. But guilty or not, when you back someone into a corner, sometimes they do desperate things. How has this government not learned from supermarkets? What did they do? They raised prices, and then we raised the amount of stealing. Turns out, people with nothing left to lose, they have nothing left to lose and might do something unpredictable. And you want us to introduce this to an already unstable relationship between Centrelink recipients and Centrelink workers? I don't think anybody's going to be happy with that. This is going to play out spectacularly bad. In the words of one of Australia's great philosophers, Ned Kelly, "That charge has never been proved against me, and it is held in English law that a man is innocent until proven guilty." Seems to me a common misconception is that a warrant will be out for you only if you've done something wrong. But I'll tell you this, you can have an arrest warrant out on you even if you haven't been charged with anything. The cops might just want to bring you in for questioning or for investigation. Labor's idea seems to be to cut off your welfare based on a warrant alone. No charges, no court dates needed, which is, as we say in Australia, a real dog cunt act. Especially because they issue warrants, but they don't always pursue them. You may be completely unaware that you even have a warrant out against you. Presumption of innocence is the cornerstone of our justice system. I'm getting an update. Certain exceptions may apply. Your mileage may vary depending on your gender, identity, and race. You have questions, please call one of our consultants who will happily deny any exemptions exist. Okay. Not to mention, Centrelink payments could include payments to support for their kids who, I don't have to say this, don't have a warrant out for them. But that's just another set of special rules for the poor people, isn't it? Yeah, we love having our own special rules. Even when welfare recipients do struggle with behavioural problems, bureaucratic hoop jumping and the threat of being cut off is never a solution. A lesson that Siegfried and Roy learned the hard way when the lion that they had been making jump through hoops for all of its meals realised it was a fucking lion and could do what it pleased. A 2020 study showed that it was broadly accepted that there is no reliable evidence that quarantining income support payments on its own addresses addiction, helps children, or results in long-term positive change. They should absolutely consider a different pathway. As the great Australian philosopher Ned Kelly once said, "It will always pay a rich man to be liberal with the poor and make as little enemies as he can, as he shall find, if the poor is on his side, he shall lose nothing by it." It has been hailed by police as a powerful tool, but slammed by social service organisations and independent senators as a breach of natural justice. A bill that was meant to clean up the wreckage of welfare abuses has now weaponised a process that was supposedly about redress and turned it into a stealth expansion of police power into the social safety net. There is also, of course, concern that communities that are traditionally targeted by police would be further disadvantaged by this amendment, which of course they fucking would, because why wouldn't they? Currently, there is no mechanism for the government or law enforcement to block income support payments when there is a warrant for someone's arrest. The amendment will allow police to request that the Home Affairs Minister issue a notice to the Minister for Social Services requiring welfare payments be ceased. There also appears to be no appeal mechanism, and so the impacts this legislation will have on families may not be resolved once the written notice has been issued. These powers dismiss the presumption of innocence and would disproportionately affect vulnerable families. ACOS Program Director of Social Security Charmaine Crowe said, "We shouldn't be involving police or the Home Affairs Minister in determining someone's entitlement to Social Security, particularly where there has been no conviction before they've gone before a court." SBS reported that it was an unexpected amendment, with neither the Coalition nor the Greens even being aware it was being tabled. You know you're fucked up when the Greens and the Coalition come together to fight you. These guys only have one crossover point on the Venn diagram of their lives, and that is right here, and that is figure out how to stop Labour from fucking something up. This is being opposed by the Greens Social Services spokesperson Penny Allman-Payne, who labelled the move an unacceptable power grab. Crossbench MP Andrew Wilkie said the whole notion of taking income support off anyone in the community simply because they are accused of something is a fundamental breach of natural justice, and it is wrong. Independent Senator Lydia Thorpe, who will attempt to remove the amendment when it is debated in the Senate, called it a shocking attempt to quietly expand police power into the welfare, tax and workplace relations systems, and said people should be treated as innocent until proven guilty. And then if they're a cop or a politician, they can still be treated as innocent even after they are found guilty. And hey, that's exactly what we said would happen earlier. Much earlier. Like heaps earlier. Like Roman Empire earlier. Yeah, that's much earlier. The Romans, and let's talk about this, they had a few ideas that don't exactly work today. But the Romans establishing innocent until proven guilty, that is my Roman Empire, buddy. I think about that every fucking day, and I'm glad that we kept it. It was a great idea. Even Liberal Senator Carrie Ann Little said it was disappointing to see Labor's last-minute amendment after the conclusion of the inquiries. And that was coming from the party that tried to introduce a similar idea themselves when the Turnbull government proposed such a measure in the 2018/19 budget. Unsurprisingly, police have welcomed the amendment, saying it would be a rarely used but powerful tool. And let me just say this clearly for those of you who are still unsure. Police should have no business deciding who gets to eat. As the great philosopher Ned Kelly said, "I have been wronged, and my mother and 4 or 5 men lagged innocent, and is my brothers and sisters and my mother not to be pitched also, who have no alternative but to put up with the brutal and cowardly conduct of a parcel of big, ugly, fat-necked, wombat-headed, big-bellied, magpie-legged, narrow-hipped, splore-footed sons of Irish bailiffs or English landlords, known as the Officers of Justice or Victorian Police, who some call honest gentlemen, but I would like to know what business an honest gentleman would have in the police." Ned, we love it. What Ned said here basically makes him the original instigator of ACAB, and we're all for it. We stand a metal-clad king. This is punishment outsourced to Centrelink. It is policing via food, rent and survival, and the collateral damage is obvious. Parents, children, caregivers, renters, people relying on disability payments, people fleeing violence, people already living on the knife edge of poverty will be the ones that cop it the most. This amendment didn't go through scrutiny. It wasn't debated through the light of day. The community wasn't involved to have a say. It was snuck in, a political ambush on the poorest people in the country. The same government who said never again after Robodebt has decided, maybe one more time. You cannot claim to have learned from systemic cruelty while quietly building the next machine of bureaucratic punishment. This whole system is slowly turning into the welfare to punishment pipeline. We don't have a lot of shared culture in modern Australia, I'll tell you that much. But we certainly have a few sacred cultural battle lines. And I'll tell you this, welfare is the first. Every citizen in this country, regardless of their criminal record, has a right to Centrelink. There is a reason that Ned Kelly and the Eureka Stockade are founding mythologies of this country, or the modern part of this country. Although, I will say 50 odd years of Murdoch propaganda on dole bludgers and the undeserving poor moving to Byron Bay to surf all day on the public dollar has done a deep effect on people in the other direction. It's real proper psychic damage. It's time to decide which mythology that we want to fight for. A spokesperson for the Minister of Social Services, Tanya Plibersek, said dependents would be considered when a decision was being made to cancel welfare payments. If someone is charged with a serious offence like murder, terrorism or child sexual abuse and is on the run, they should not continue receiving a payment from the government. We need to give these guys the same restrictions that we give to the police who have committed a violent or sexual crime, or politicians who have also abused power and caused the deaths of many or the harm of many others. I think they would think twice then. If you insist on punishing people on welfare, well, we're going to need some kind of trade-off, I think. The easiest and most obvious solution to me is getting rid of mutual obligations. Raise the welfare amount to $500 a week. There is, I'll say, plenty of evidence for the efficacy of unconditional cash transfer programs. You know, no strings attached support. That sort of thing. To put it simply, give people money so that they don't die. Yes, even if you don't like that particular person. But it seems Labor are fans of cruelty and keeping people in poverty for no good reason, and even insisting that services like Workforce Australia, who take millions in government money and fail consistently to put people into work. Latest report was that 90% of the time, despite it literally being their only reason for existing, they failed. And then bullying recipients into terrible jobs so they can get bonuses. I guess that's their other reason for existing. And that may be the one that they feel is more important to them, getting those bonuses. But fuck those guys. Take those millions of dollars that we give to Workforce Australia and such programs, job service providers, just give it directly to the people on welfare instead. It would be much better return on investment if you ask most people. It's time to kill the myth of the undeserving poor. Murdoch papers have been pushing the dole bludger narrative more and more because they need an enemy to turn the working class on, so that they won't turn on the rich instead. But also, they're upset that they have to work to earn money instead of, getting subsidised or funded by the government like the ABC. They've been very bitter about this for a very long time. And then they have turned their anger outwards onto the welfare system as a reflection of the ABC.